All right, so for obvious reasons, this study, this poll has caused quite the dust-up controversy, debate online. The Pew Research Center did a study as to a year's worth of compilation, 2023, 2024. They've done this, in years past as well. But the poll in question that's causing all the dust up is about same-sex marriage, as to whether or not members in the Presbyterian Church in America, the PCA, who say that same-sex marriage is something they either strongly favor, strongly oppose, or no answer. And you can see here that the results are 53% strongly favor /favor, or strongly oppose /oppose is 47%. Okay, and there's like a sliver of non-answers, which apparently the poll is somewhere around 150. There's a question asked to Grok here, who gives the chart subsample is likely 150 to 200 respondents, and we'll look at that more in a minute here. But so people are pushing back on the study, on the results here, and most of the pushback isn't people saying it's more than that, it's more, right? I mean, well, most of the pushback is that's wrong, it's less. The PCA is great, I like the PCA, I'm in the PCA. Based on my experience, the PCA is not gay. And so, I mean, these are PCA people who are saying that the study is it's hacked, it's a hack job, it's propaganda, it's just Christian nationalists, trying to be anti-Semitic. That's all this is. Just a Christian nationalist anti-Semitic poll. That's what this is. A racist anti-Semitic Christian nationalist poll. That's what this is. Now, actually, what they're saying is, oh no, the reason that these numbers are the way they are is because PCUSA members are too stupid to fill out the form correctly. They don't know they don't know what denomination they're in. So you have a lot of PCA folks accusing PCUSA members of just being stupid, basically being incapable of completing a form, a survey that they agreed to fill out. Well, they don't know what denomination they're in. They don't know what denomination they're in. They say they don't know what denomination they're in. This Pastor Mathis here posted this, and that's kind of like the piece that's gotten the attention. He's got 88,000 views, so it's not like massive, but I mean, neither is the Reformed churches. But he's got a book. It looks like he's trying to sell, so maybe he's got some reason as to why he wants to get these numbers out there, and I can't blame him for that. But I haven't read all these responses. It doesn't look like there are a lot of responses on his page, but a couple people affirming it. Yeah, if you were to see the reposts, it's a lot of people denying it. I'm actually surprised to see all these positive. Is there a possibility of confusing PCA and PCUSA? Side B did gain ground in the PCA. Keller folks. Sad, frustrating. I was assured that PCA was perfectly conservative. Nothing was wrong. This APCA condemning Christian nationalism and railroading Garris. Yeah, see, this is part of the problem. Like, this is just like a very like clear-cut, very obvious issue that is going on. The people who were condemned Christian nationalism, in large part, are coming from these types of denominations, and even if they're not, like they typically do have more left-leaning views in general. Maybe it's not as far as homosexuality, but there is more leftism to them. And I think it goes without saying that Christian nationalism is a very right-wing political position. So, it's really hard to take any pushback from leftists when it comes to Christian nationalism as a political position. A lot of people reposted this with taking it in good faith that it actually was accurate, and they condemn it. But we did see a lot. There are good reasons to think this may not be accurate. So here you got one here. So I did see Hitler Hated Christ commenting the same reaction, that this is just a PC USA buffed or nerfed, however you wanted to put it, chart. And so I think him saying mucho no bueno, I was actually surprised to see that. But you have this guy saying, I think that is because PCA USA people not knowing what denomination are in. Yeah, I think I might have to agree. These numbers are hugely off from my experience, which is just weird because he posted it saying mucho no bueno. So does he mean that the chart is wrong, or is he like against? So anyway, I was trying to figure out if there's a way to clarify this, really, to get a better, accurate understanding. And this guy asked here, Grok, based on given information here, estimate the size sample study, now explore the general poll trends. What type of people demographically are most likely to have answered this poll? So Pew's research, 2023-24 religious landscape study surveys 36,908 U.S. adults. PCA is 0.5% of adults, so the chart subsample is likely 150 to 200 respondents. The 53% favor figure has real uncertainty, and it doesn't say why that there's a real uncertainty, but in 2014 used phone mode. I guess this is why, maybe 2014 phone mode. They use phone mode. Which means probably they're calling, they're talking to them and saying, are you in the PCA, or are you like, what denomination are you in, right? And they're saying it. So there's not like a list where they have to like check one or the other, and they could like just mischeck one or something like that. They actually would have to vocalize which one. So maybe that poll would be more accurate. We can look at that as well. But this recent 2023-24 poll was mostly online paper. Pew specifically cautions against direct comparison due to this shift. So, and they do say that. They do say that the shift can cause some hang-ups or whatever, or discrepancy. U.S. same-sex marriage support overall rose sharply since 2014. That's important. That is important. That it rose sharply regardless of PCUSA. Respondents are probably sampled address-based adults who have who self-identify as PCA. Okay, demographically reflects the denomination, mostly white, college-educated Protestants. Survey often see higher response from educated or older groups, but Pew weighs international benchmarks not an opt-in poll. Small and limits strong claims about the whole PCA. Okay, so I love how Grok has to like kind of like put in this 2 cents about the thing. But so this is the PCA. It's 53% of Presbyterian Church in America, and it's 47% in the negative. If you look at the PCUSA, they have 72% in the positive, 28% in the negative. Okay. The trend for last year was 57 and 36 for the PCUSA. It's the PCA is almost that same amount. It's actually less, but it's almost that same amount. Their last trend comparison was 40%. So even with the more accurate, if you will, with the phone calls, it was almost 50% in 2014. Okay, and the stats have risen. I don't even think you have to take Grok's word for that about the overall rise. I'm pretty sure that can be found through the Pew Research. But even just looking at the rise, you can see that there is a rise, regardless of whether or not it was PCA or PCUSA. So the whole thing of like, oh, they just don't know any better and this and that or whatever. It's like, why do you have so like, look at the amount of the PCUSA versus the PCA. You just see, like, you just look at these polls and it's like, regardless of whether or not there was some misclicks or misbubbling or whatever, this is terrible. I mean, like, even back in 2014, it was 40%, and we know they've had issues about this. We know they've been having issues about this. So this whole thing, like, oh, we just want to like, this shouldn't be like, this is not an unexpected like issue. This is not like, this does not surprise me in the slightest. Okay. Oh. This study, it doesn't surprise me. Like, the reaction that we're getting about the poll being, wrong or whatever, it's a denial. There's just a blatant denial. I mean, they don't want to take the responsibility. They don't want to actually look at the facts, examine data, right? They just want to say, oh, well, the data's skewed. Ignore it all, look away. That's exactly what I expect them to do. Okay? Because that's how you get where you're at with these studies, with these percentages. That's how they got there. The favorite, the favoring of same-sex marriage, it didn't get there by people actually looking at the facts, actually examining the data, actually speaking to the truth and taking note of reality and things like that. No, it got there by ignoring, by being passive about it, by being, oh, it's probably, that's, I'm sure this person that I know that says some things and has seemed like, weird about homosexuality, I'm sure they don't actually believe that. That same mentality is how the church is going to continue to get worse and worse, because these people aren't willing to actually speak to one another, to actually confront the truths, confront people, to speak out. They have an attitude of no, that can't be right. They have this very passive, hands off, whatever. And also, we're hearing constantly about the big tent mentality of the PCA. They want the big tent mentality. Well, if to be big tent, you've got to be a little bit more this way. Think about Tim Keller. Tim Keller was essentially promoting. He was not like this anti-homosexual type pastor. You had Revoice. I mean, there's just a plethora of evidence of red flags that have gone up. And I'm telling you right now, regardless of whether or not you believe this poll was accurate or not, the attitude of like, I don't think the poll's accurate and we're just gonna whatever, that's not the attitude to have. You need to have the attitude of, wow, that's bad. And I don't know how accurate it is, but I do know that it has to have some accuracy. There's some some resemblance. Like you can say, okay, 12%, 15% of these voters, they did it wrong. These pollsters, they were wrong. Okay, take them out. You're still gonna have a large percentage saying yes, like, regardless. Okay. But again, like, is the attitude that we should have an attitude of like denial, like that, like just denial? So again, that is how you get where they are. That's how they get where. That's how things are going to get even worse. And here's all these men trying to say, hey, this is a problem. Hey, this is a red flag. And then for Christians, any Christian to push back at all, and it was some like, oh, that poll is probably not right or whatever. It's like, brother, you're missing the point. Like, these men are trying to point out a big issue. They're trying to help people. They want to help brothers and sisters in Christ. And your attitude of like, well, it's probably not that, it's probably not accurate. And you're in the PCA. If that's the mentality of members in the PCA, like what does the relationship look like with their brothers in the PCA, their brothers and sisters in the PCA? It probably looks passive. It probably looks hands off. It probably looks like denial. It probably looks like, I'm gonna ignore the red flags, like they're literally doing online. So you prove that these numbers can continue to get worse and worse by the attitude you've had just on the poll. I mean, just based on that. So I'm so tired of seeing this, and it's again, like, I understand being charitable or whatever, like, I understand like taking with a grain of salt a poll or whatever. That's just not what's happening, and it's a problem. I think people are really, you're going to forego the whole denomination. Like, here's a red flag. Here's a sin that needs to be called out, and you're just gonna, I don't think it's actually that. I don't think that's actually really what's going on. Just because you don't trust the polls or whatever, like, you have to go off something. You have to go off some data, and this poll isn't the only data. We've had plenty of data elsewhere. So, I just, it's so discouraging to look at the landscape, look at the political and social issues that are bombarding us in the church today, and to see men respond like that, respond with waving a hand or whatever. You keep waving your hand, and it's just going to make things worse. That's my 2 cents. Oh, also, I'm not in the PCA.
May the Christian Lord guide my hand against your Roman popery!